Welcome back, everybody, to Gringos Liberados, your number one source of summarized podcast's information about the CBLOL. LTA South, never heard of it. It's fake.
Literally have no idea what you're talking about.
Literally, no one's ever said that. No one's ever watched it, I'm pretty sure. This is a CBLOL podcast, and always has been. And if you think you're wrong,
always has been.
You're wrong. Okay, so let's just kick off with this, right? This is the big bombshell. LTA's dead. We're going back to the way it was, and it's not even like, oh, we're just going to call them CBLOL and LCS again. They're independent leagues. Implication being that we're throwing cross-regional play out the window again after it just started to get good.
Bro, I mean, where do we even start with this?
Well, we shouldn't start on your Twitter feed, that's for sure. We shouldn't start there.
No, where we should start actually is Peter Dunn's Twitter feed, which
was
because what he got across is what I was trying to get across.
Yeah,
and I did a horrible job of it because I was cranked up and I didn't think through my tweet. But what Peter Dunn said was this. It was a kind of a two-parter, right? That's too long. Okay. The frustrating thing to me is that for years, since 2016 pretty much, when he was down there, I've said that CBLOL needed to come together as a region to boost international performance. However, with only one slot for international play and international exposure, this is a very hard call for orgs to make. We finally see the benefits of this happening in LTA cross-conference this summer. Red and VKS as well, ThinkCard from Furia, helping out too domestically, and now that opportunity is gone. And with the incentives for cross-team cooperation, and with it, the incentives for cross-team cooperation. The difference between 1 slot and 1.5 slots is massive. Bingo. And then, Shauna Tonin, GOAT of the NA amateur scene, would competing for the 4th slot at Worlds, 3rd LCS, spot, be something you think could help alleviate this frustration? And Peter Dunn says, I genuinely think that is all that is required. Because the backlash, it needs to be understood. The backlash, one, let it just be said, in some ways is extremely irrational and emotional. And I literally saw people calling for people to die. I literally saw like C-list CBLOL Twitter celebrities calling for people to die and that getting 800 likes. Stop with that bullshit. It's a fucking game. All the stereotypes about Brazil, you are reinforcing those and doing no favors for why people think that we are a third world underdeveloped country. It's because of shit like this. Stop it.
Yeah.
Peter Dunn says, I genuinely think that is all that is required. The quote-unquote cost of everything that CBLOL went through was justified by the promise of more international opportunities. And that is what people were excited about with cross-conference and with the merger, right? That was the that was the upside, not the upshot. I learned that those are two different things in in UK slang. The upshot does not mean the upside. The upshot means in summary. I learned that recently. The current outrage is a result of that broken promise and the perceived unfairness of it all after last weekend. Thank you, Peter Dunn, for being concise and eloquent.
Yes.
Because that's really it, right? If Cade had gotten their shit stomped all weekend, and if Red had gotten their shit stomped through all of cross-conference, right? If Brazil goes up there and just gets obliterated the whole cross-conference, and then we go back and say, you know what, 3 LCS, 1 CBLOL. The backlash isn't as bad. I still think there would be backlash, but
it's not as bad.
But what a catastrophic, brutal 1-2 punch to go from showing that the gap is not that big to going 3-1?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like I understand that these decisions were made beforehand, and I understand the idea of wanting them, again, in a vacuum. And I understand in a vacuum wanting to announce this at the finals, right? Because that got uproarious applause. That was, everyone liked this.
Yep.
But then with the context of the optics of that juxtaposition, absolutely awful. But the one last piece of context I'll add, what Kako Antunes did say was that there is room for the CBLOL to get more slots, right? And that things will be based on international competition results, which is how it has been in the past, right? Let's say pre-pandemic, because I think that's a good kind of before and after in modern League of Legends, professional League of Legends parlance. Beforehand, right? It was right when Europe was getting 4 slots. It's because Europe was doing really, really well, right? And getting 4, and we would reevaluate that on kind of a rolling international results placement, right? Okay, like the Champions League in Europe, right? It's you get more slots if your region does better. But then my counterpoint to that is sort of what Peter Dunn was alluding to. if you send just one team with no cross conference, right? I think that's two different things, right? Or two separate but related things. If you send one team, in general, it is so tough because your data points get fewer and fewer. And if you send one team with no cross conference as well, that gets even more tough because, again, it's just fewer data points. You are taking a very small sample size and extrapolating it out to judge the strength of the whole region.
Yeah.
Right? If it's an 8-team region, you get 1, whereas if it's an 8-team region and you get 3, almost half the LCS is going to Worlds. I'm not saying that's not deserved necessarily.
I'm saying that's not deserved.
Because it's I think there's a case for that. And I think it's so fraught, right? No matter what, because because you have to strike a balance at Worlds, especially with it being, well, okay, clearly China and Korea are streets ahead of the West, and clearly the top 4 Chinese and Korean teams are not as good as the top 3 European and American teams, obviously. So you have to strike a balance between what is a representative, like equal, sort of representation versus how do you just like get a bunch of international teams there? Because that's also the point of Worlds, right? So I get that is a tough balance to strike, but golly, what a brutal juxtaposition to make it 3-1, right? Even just fight for that last World spot once a year, right? I genuinely think that makes a lot of this go away.
You gotta imagine that, like, the people who are about to announce this are like, man, why couldn't, like, VKS have just gotten stomped again? Or, like, why couldn't couldn't they have just lost 100 Thieves, man? This would make this announcement go over way better. But that's just not, because this won't have been set following the finals, right? That would have been agreed weeks ago. So it's bad timing. It's very bad timing. And I think it is something that, given what they've said, they are acutely aware of how big the fan backlash is. The entire reason they binned the LTA is because the fan backlash was too big. That's basically what they said, is we're listening to the fans. The fans don't like the leagues. They don't identify with them. They don't feel good about them. So we put them back. And like, that's basically what's going on. They're not opposed to doing that. I think the evidence is pretty clear that 3-1 is not fairly representative of these two regions' power levels. You then have to start talking about, like, well, like, where does the LCP fit into that as another region that is, like, super good or super bad, depending on which team happens to be playing at internationals that day. It's another very tricky question of, like, is it CFO and the rest? Is it FlyQuest and the LCS? Is it CFO and the LCP? Or is there more of depth there to be found that needs more slots, that needs to be shown, right? It seems like in the LTA context, the CBLOL came away looking really good. We are 2 and 3, or like our 2 beat their, our 1 beat their 2, and
our 2 beat their 3,
and our 1 beat their 2, right? So like they dovetail in very nicely, and I think anyone who is watching competitive League in the Americas over the last 2 years knows that FlyQuest isn't on the same scale as anyone else on this side of the planet. Like, they're just not. They're just better than everyone else by a pretty large margin. And if you're then judging the league's scale, the league's strength, like, yeah, man, it doesn't seem that different.
No.
Because you even consider that, like, oh, well, FlyQuest and or TL and C9 weren't there, so it's not a good judge. We can go, yeah, well, Furia wasn't there, so it's not a good judge. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Like, no, you could say the same thing. And at the end of the day, those teams didn't show up when it mattered.
Yeah, sometimes your good teams
those
bomb
teams
in playoffs,
got
bro.
double limb, best of 5 opportunities to show what they were about, and they were butt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you can't beat Shopify,
bro,
with the greatest of respect,
even you don't deserve to beat Shopify, man. Everyone's beating Shopify.
Yeah.
Like, So you beat them with like 2 rookies, and it's
2 rookies and a Kaze.
Yeah, 2 rookies and a Kaze, bro. So it's not too hard, but it's not gone down well. Something is probably going to be done about it. And at the very least,
which again, like, I'll give. You have to give Riot some credit for listening to the fans. Again, like, there was never going to be a perfect, and this is not me being a Riot shill, because we're not paid by Riot. I want to emphasize that, right? This is not us shilling for them.
If you'd seen the tweet that 4y4 put up before he deleted it, you would know he's not a Riot shill. You would know that for sure.
No. And in fact, as soon as I said that, I do have a side employment doing translation work that I am paid by Riot, which was part of the reason why I deleted that. I was like, look, even as a contract employee, that probably wasn't the smartest thing
it's just
to have tweeted.
No.
But even though I stand by, like, the sentiment that I was getting at, the execution was poor.
Yes.
For those that missed it, I called North America the welfare babies of the League of Legends ecosystem. Again, is it true? there's a discussion to be had.
In different
We're going to
terms?
start a conversation. Yeah. But someone who I respect a lot in the space, I told them about what I tweeted and that line, and they were like, I mean, you're not wrong. So like, again, I was further justified in what I was saying, but the how was bad. But you have to give Riot a little bit of credit for actually listening to people, right? And I think when they say it's going to be iterated on, right, and especially with like Mark Z, right, at the helm, like he seems like someone who is just like they listen. Right, they listen, they care, they're trying their best. I again, this is just to add context. It doesn't change the hurt of this. It doesn't change the bad optics of it. And the last thing I'll say, another thing that I really think will be missed, that boot camp in between splits 2 and 3, right, is I think that's a bigger deal than we realize. Because that's another thing that was kind of talked about with Valorant. Obviously, there's an Americas region in Valorant, and there has been for a while, so it's a bit more the status quo. There were rumors, and I guess I suppose it still might come to pass, but I don't think it's happening. There were rumors that Brazil was going to break off, right, and that the Americas were kind of done, and that Brazil was going to be its own region again for Valorant, like it was in kind of when Loud won champs in 2022. And a lot of people in the comments were like, okay, this is all well and good, but the North American teams are a deeper region than us, and we are not going to get better. Right, we are not going to return to the Loud winning champions, right? Aspas being the GOAT again, world, if we just have our, like rock fight here in the South, right? Yeah. There is value to being in an ecosystem with the North because we do get better, right? Yeah. And again, whether the peak of North, like Valorant aside, because it's more equal there, in League of Legends terms, right? That is a lot better. And the players have talked about it. Morteus has talked about how, bro, I learned so much from going up there and even screaming goddamn Dignitas, right? It gives you confidence, if nothing else, right? It gives you exposure to all these different systems. If we don't have this, this boot camp and this merger, you don't have Impact being a sleeper agent and helping out Cade, right? You don't have the positives of this. And again, if we're talking about, but again, it's sort of like what Peter Dunn's tweet was saying. It was the promise of more international opportunities and exposure. And now that is broken. And on top of that, the double whammy of 3-1 international slots, right? Just feels so shitty. But again, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not as financially invested in it, right? But like I trust Riot to eventually get it right. But man, this has been rough.
Yeah, and I think it's because like they used to have 3 slots, right? They had 2 main and 1 play-ins back when the play-ins was a whole thing and not just T1 versus IG. So like, because now everyone goes into Swiss, and I like Swiss. I love Swiss. I think that's cool.
Swiss is great.
But like it feels even more so because now you've got 3 essential main slots at Worlds, and it's like, but we were so close. So it's gonna hurt. Hopefully they can keep this north to south relationship doing something, even if they're not actually playing against each other for trophies. Do something, man. Keep them doing something, because the cross-conference tournament was like sick. It was so fun to watch, man. Even when we were getting 3-0'd by FlyQuest, or like, like it still felt really good.
Because the rest of it was awesome. Because FlyQuest, again, it's clearly just they're playing a different game.
Yeah,
right.
Like,
okay, yeah, you go up there and get ass blasted, but also then you take a game off them. Cade won 22-2.
Yeah,
right?
bro.
That
like,
was awesome.
We actually
that was the coolest shit in the world.
It was so sick. That's all we wanted. We wanted like a game. That's all we realistically were hoping to get. Like, we got a game. And like you mentioned, like Morteus, he's on VKS. He's saying how much he learned. Like, as we said, Red is like half rookies, bro. Imagine what they're learning by having this happen. Like, they're getting so much value by doing this. And it got us a chance to see FNB outside of Brazil popping off, like showing the value that the FN believers have always had. That like, no, this guy isn't just like a regular season Brazil stomper. He's actually genuinely great, and he is. Like, he showed up like against these top laners. So there was a lot to take away from that. And even if they're not playing for slots or titles, please keep doing something together, man, because it's fun. It's just cool, and you're fairly close to each other. Like, let's all just like meet in Mexico once a year and have a big tournament like that, man. Let's just do that. So hopefully it does get something. And you mentioned that Mark Z listens to the fans. He absolutely does. And the other thing that I think is really important about them doing something is that they don't dawdle anymore. When they've just noticed something that the fans like Fearless, or the changes to formats or stuff, they have demonstrated they're like, oh, you want this? That thing isn't working? Okay, scrap that. Everyone hates that. Let's do this now. We're doing something new. They have done so much of that this year, of trying to change, and they tried really hard to make it work by flexing and changing stuff throughout the year. And now they've gone, okay, the best thing we can do is to scrap it and keep going. So I think because they still have Mark Z and Kako essentially at like the heads of these things, because Kako is still, I think, head of LoL Esports Americas, so I think he's technically, his role is still both, but I don't know if they'll end up rejigging that, who knows. But with Mark Z and Kako as like two faces of kind of the establishment of American League at this point, they seem really willing to try things and do stuff. And I think you just have to keep trying things until it works, because you need to, it's needed. So anyway, we've got the CBLOL back, and the logo is always been sick for the CBLOL, so I'm happy to have the logo back, because I think it rules. And it does mean that this sort of poster thing that I got from my CBLOL English welcome package in 2023 is relevant again, because it says CBLOL on it, so it's come back around. And it's no longer a retro, unique, eBayable collector's item. Now it's just the actual symbol of the league. So I've lost out, but I think the poster's nice. So okay, right. Let's talk a little bit about those matches. Let's talk about the finals. Let's get it up. So this was VKS and 100 Thieves first, and this is the one where 100 Thieves had swept aside Red. There were big worries about the mid lane matchup in that series, and it didn't go very well at all. But VKS had Miryu, right? The only other person to dump Kaze was out in the same way that kind of Quid did was Miryu. So we're like, okay, that's fine. They've got that mid lane, so we've got power in the mid lane. And they have like Bowl popping off into Dokla, who's not like a super dominant top laner. He's a very journeyman, serviceable, reliable vibes guy, right? And we had Bowl who was hitting his peak. Morteus getting
and that's not to denigrate being the vibes guy, because clearly that had an astronomical impact on 100 Thieves.
Yeah, they literally turned them around from like 6th to 2nd, right?
From just poo to the second best team in the region.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Props to Dokla for the vibes that guy brought, because they're very powerful. So I came into the series pretty confident. I don't know about you, 404, because like 100 Thieves looked scary, but I thought the matchup stylistically was just so much better than Red 100 Thieves. I think Red 100 Thieves is just a terrible matchup for Red. Like,
yeah, you don't trust Red yet.
No,
to deal with kind of the chaos
they're babies.
Of 100 Thieves. No.
They're 1-year-olds on the Rift, like,
Yeah, well, and it's funny because like in the promo material for kind of the finals, like when Morteus was talking about how they view 100 Thieves, they said, I think they're a better version of Red from our region. They have the chaos element and strong individual players, but they just play the map better than Red. And I kind of agree with that. There's a lot of truth to that no, for Red, the individual talent, it's clearly there, right? In all 5 roles, it's clearly there, but you still make these Brazilian map blunders, whereas 100 Thieves don't as much, right? But with Cade, you have the same amount of individual talent, if not better in some roles, but they are way more buttoned up.
Yeah, for sure. And Red really suffer a lot when they can't exert some sort of dominance mechanically over the game. I think they look like multiple factors worse when they don't look like they can, like, okay, I'm going to gracefully lose my mid lane and then scale up and still be useful. It's like, well, I can't win my mid lane, so I'm now useless and invisible. Kind of seems like I think that's just the mark of an inexperienced team, that you can't necessarily adjust properly when it goes rough, which is essential for international performance. So, but they'll have learned a lot from that. I think VKS and 100 Thieves heavily exposed that aspect of this Red roster. I don't expect any changes in this roster, nor would I want to see them. But that has given them a clear learning, is you're so good at these things, you're good enough to come second in the region, but this problem of when your mid-jungle gets outskilled, your team collapses around that. Like, you need to fix that.
Yeah. No, I have no notes. And I mean, 100 Thieves have a very potent mid-jungle.
Mid-jungle merchants, bro. They are. Yeah. So,
as we saw.
But yeah, into VKS, when you have Miryu Desamis, they looked very, as you say, very buttoned up, and they were able to get, money into Miryu. I was worried that maybe it would be a go even angle, but they were still able to get gold into him at times. Bowl did not choose that week to become invisible, where I was always we were waiting for the other to shoot a drop on Bowl for forever, and I'd wager it kind of still hasn't. Like, you went up against Gatgos and Whippo, who are insanely good, but he didn't look like old Bowl. Like, he was just,
No, exactly. I think that's what you've got to gave me hope, and how I'm kind of couching all of this is like, okay, he came back down to earth a little bit in the sense of like the results weren't there, but these are two of the best top laners he's played in like the entirety of 2025, right? He came back. Gakos is a demon.
Yeah,
that kid is good. If FlyQuest do what I think they're gonna do, which is after this split, they're gonna part ways with Whippo. Like all the more reason, right? Like you have two really good excuses if you want to do that. One, the incident. Two, you have a ready-made replacement right there.
Yeah.
With like a really high upside and just incredibly exciting. So
yeah, I think
Gakos is an absolute demon, dude.
Whippo is primed to become a coach / broadcast talent. I think he was primed to become a broadcast talent 5 years ago.
That was in his future at some point, 100%.
And whether that's still an option to him following the incident, I think that might have closed that door, at least for now. If we remember when other broadcast talent who had incidents, they didn't come back. No, to my memory. So that might have closed the door. Coaching might still be possible. Like FlyQuest is still happy to play him, and I think it seemed like they were like, okay, we're going to get a new crack top laner in so that I can transition into a coaching role, because he clearly does enjoy coaching and teaching. That's why he was like offering free coaching to CBLOL pros just for absolutely zero during the first cross conference when they were down there, right? So I think that's where he's going to end up regardless. And probably shouldn't coach in Game Changers, but we'll see.
Did you see some of the signs from the like at NA or at the
some of the
championship?
Yeah, there was some.
Dude, I'm trying to find some of them right now, but like there was this was great. Two signs right next to each other. I just hope everyone has fun. ... except Whippo. And like, I mean, look, you got to sit there and eat it. I will give Whippo credit for the response he gave in the press conference. He kind of took
the one
on
on stage
and ate it. Like,
was actually good, and it was like it felt like, to me, it felt like anything that's like tweeted at that point was like the most canned PR response. It's better than what he was doing before, but like what he said on stage felt like a decent merger between like what you really have to say from like a stock value aspect and what felt a little bit more like it came out of his own mouth. And that was a good response. And then he tweeted something about haters afterwards that I think, to be fair, I think people took a bit too, that they were like, I don't think he's tweeted stuff like that before the incident. He has referred to the haters and has always had haters, and I think that's a very normal Whippo thing to do, that without the incident he'd tweet the same thing. So
but again, you have to look at like kind of the optics of
again,
like,
terrible time to do that.
Like
I don't believe that he was necessarily referring to genuinely held criticisms from women about what he said in that moment, but it certainly looks like it. And it's just terrible timing, and you're never going to know that he's not referring to that, right? It's not impossible that he was. So it's again just absolutely generational error strings coming out of Whippo here. But that response on stage did feel valuable and like an actually good apology, which he had hitherto failed to make.
Step in the right direction.
So cool, man. So he's not, I don't think he's going to get booted out of the entire scene for this overall at the end of it. And I think there's a chance that he probably becomes a coach at some point. So anyway, so VKS was generally very happy with Miryu. It felt like Miryu was still able to do his thing, and the VKS was still able to pump gold into him. Bol did super well, especially into Dokla, which is not as tough of a top matchup. I think he looked absolutely still very valuable. And I think the one thing that in that matchup where I was like, okay, maybe that's where the laning of Morteus and Trimby not being as good becomes more of an issue. It didn't really. They were still super comfortable, like with Morteus on scaling carries and win condition champs into FPI, who has been like a super, in his day has been like a really, really dominant top 2 AD carry in the region.
Yeah. No, they never, I mean, not never, but this year's went a lot better than the first time they played, which I think was all I was really hoping for. Even Inspired kind of talked about it, like how he said, he was asked, like, can you tell if a team is playing nervous, right, or playing scared? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, do you think that Cade were playing scared. He's like, yeah, I thought they were nervous the first time, and they didn't. It didn't seem
Yeah.
like that was happening
They
this
didn't
time.
really
And even like
do
in the
anything.
game 3 composition that they played, right? You have Nocturne Akali Jhin, right? Like, I was really nervous for that draft. That made me really scared because like it was like, again, you have CC, you have Engage, you have quote unquote frontline, but like it really felt like a House of Cards sort of draft. But they had to get the ball rolling early, and they did. So I give them credit for that. Again, the mid jungle looked really potent, right? 100% KP almost, right, through the first kind of few minutes there. And so they executed, they did their job into a composition that could, you know, if you let it get out of control late, right, is not going to let you back into that game. So game 3, again, 1 game sample size, but like they really took care of business there. And I think that's all everybody wanted, right? Because again, I'll repeat what was kind of said beforehand. Like no one was thinking, even from Brazil, no one was thinking they were actually going to beat FlyQuest, right? You could, but no one actually thought, oh, we're going in there and we are going. No. The objective was beat Shopify, beat 100 Thieves, look respectable against FlyQuest, because no one had any notions above their station.
Pretty much. Like none of the games had big upsets or comebacks or sort of throws, really. It was like who got there, the draft they wanted, executed on their early game plan better, and then neither of them threw away like a game that they'd won in the first like 15-20 minutes, in the theoretical sense that anyone can win the game in 15 minutes. So like it was a match between, I think, the 2 cleanest teams playing clean league, and like again, just who gets that better execution, who has that better plan or the better like sub plan that then kind of counters what the enemy is doing. And once you have that success, once you've like got the right trap card in place and you've executed there, you push that advantage, you hold it, you don't throw it away, you don't do anything silly, at least majorly silly, like Atacon throwing or like when you're in the lead, you know what I mean? So I think BKS did do one questionable decision around an Atacon that was just like, why are we starting this? But I don't think they weren't winning that game already, and it felt a bit more like, what if this works?
That's what League of Legends truism, right? It's always going to look worse when you're behind, but when you're behind, you got to go for big plays and, you know, go for kind of flippy stuff. So like you said, didn't have an issue with it.
Yeah, that third game, the Nocturne Akali game, I wasn't at my desk at the time. I was listening to the audio just because I was busy, and I just remember hearing like the first fight where like the kill goes on to Miryu, and I was like, we're winning this one. This is the one we win. This is the one we win. We got Miryu Akali, Nocturne. We got the kill, first kill into Miryu. It's done and dusted.
You got that rolling early. You have to win this one.
This is the one. Okay.
You simply must win this one.
Yes. And it was like, such a clean game, like very little given up. Like it was, so it's great to see that they've got that in them. And there's still plenty of room to grow, of course. FlyQuest are the best team in the West, and they have been for like a year and a half, so that's fine. But overall, happy with what we got out of that. I think both regions can be like, well, we didn't have like they can walk out of their losses being like, oh, I didn't send my best, I didn't send my Pain or my Furia versus your Cloud9 versus your TL. I mean, I don't think anyone's saying that for TL, to be honest, anymore, but your Cloud9. And, you know, maybe, but it meant that the playoffs and the seasons had interesting upsets and fun results that then played into the correct result, which was FlyQuest winning, and VKS getting all the way there. And maybe, you know, it would have been lovely to take their slot, right? We were very excited about this chance of taking their slot, but that would not have been earned. I think that would have been a monumental 100 Thieves collapse.
Dude, could you imagine if the announcement was the announcement and Brazil had taken the world slot?
I think that's the... Do you think they actually would have changed the number of slots? Like on the dime, they would have been like, Saturday, and I'm like, this doesn't work. Make it 2 and 2.
I think there's a chance. I think that discussion had to have been had, right? Or at least you still make the announcement, but you don't talk about world slots.
Yeah, you hold that.
Right? You like of all the foot and mouth moments that Riot have had, that one would bar none be the most like read the room.
That would have
what
been
are you
much.
doing?
Yeah, because
that would have been
the 3-1 thing. I think like there's a total number of slots that they're allocating to this side of the planet, and like because there's independentizing the leagues again, they maybe just did not initially have a plan to do any cross-conference at all. So they're like, well, how do we compete for a slot when there's no cross-conference play? So like, that's probably why it was done the way it was done. And everyone is now like, seems to have consensused on, let's just fight for the 4th slot, right? Let's fight for that 3rd LCS slot instead, but they will need to then probably reimagine what they thought the formats and stuff were going to be so they can have time for a best of 5 in there separate to all of this, right? Because they won't have planned for that. So they might still do it, and it's plannable around, right? They did this whole Worlds Playing thing is basically the same thing, right? So I don't know, just do it there. Why not? But it's that's something you can adjust for quickly but not immediately, whereas the 3-1 after like actually it being 2-1, then going to 1 and 3 in the other direction would have been ugly business. They would have started throwing bins through windows, man. That would not have gone down well. No. Okay, right. So let's take a quick check-in on fantasy, and then we have some questions and some cool sort of questions and prompts in from the fans as well. So fantasy concludes in the LTA with Rambling FC, I believe 2 timing. I believe 2 in a row now for Rambling. I think they got their first
something like that
too. So a small dynasty emerging. Paradox kind of eternally second place, unfortunately, it seems like in a lot of these fantasy leagues they end up second place. Lunar Day chilling, got over the 1,000 mark as well, a 4-digit holder at the very least.
Congrats.
With Ray and a whole lot of Chinese symbols below that. I'm not sure if Dota 2 is actually, I can't remember which ones are Lizards teams, but
because Dota 2's been there. I've seen that team name a lot.
Yeah, that one's this is a staunch member, but I'm not 100% sure what their tag in the community is, because I don't think we have a chatter or community member called Dota 2. So you may need to let us know in the Discord server if you're in there to remind us of your regular chatter if you're a common.
Yeah, shout out to Defense of the Ancients too. And something that I'm just going to kind of throw out here. I think that because next year they are bringing the fantasy back, right? It's going to be just fantasy CBLOL or just fantasy LCS, which great, good
so
job.
Now
right?
nobody can beat me with my self-hamstringing strategy of only picking CBLOL players.
Exactly,
now they have to come down to my level.
Exactly. Even playing field, etc.
And you're going to have to draft house like I do, or, you know...
you're going to have to suck it up.
You can't just draft quid and quad and all these... broken mids,
you have
right?
$3 left. It's pro Delta time.
It's pro Delta. It's Bronson bottom. I'm sorry to tell you. So,
but I do think it could be fun. I think we could, over the off season, we'll talk to people. I think it could be fun to because this was a roaring success. I would say, just for us and in general, I think people were really, really happy with how this went. So we could talk about some sort of prizes of some kind. They will be small because again, we have $0 or hands.
We don't have resources.
We don't have money.
No,
but we've got people who care. So we'll see if we can think of something to
and it seems to work. The system works. The browser and the app works really well. It's not too complicated, or at the very least, it will be less complicated because they're simplifying the formats. The main thing that complicated Split 3 was the formats, which made it impossible to draft your team intentionally that you wanted. You had to draft what was viable, and there was very
and
small...
then half the league gets eliminated, and it's like, wait, we're still doing fantasy, or
we aren't even sure, right? So the simplified formats will help with this. Or probably going back to some sort of round robin into double best of 5 elimination is probably my educated guess, but that will be a lot simpler for fantasy. And I'm down to keep doing it for sure, because it works really well, and it's just a nice little piece of the ecosystem to keep in there to flesh out the experience of being a fan of the league that, as you say, that was run by 3 people or whatever it is. They just had a little group of guys in a basement just running this, and I think for what was needed to set it up resource wise, it seems to I think it's gone really well. So I hope they keep it and don't keep trying to change it like they've done in the past. So I think it's good the way it is. Okay. Let's get into the mailbox. So, first one is a very interesting point from Lunar Day here, who says, just want to point out that prior to the lower semi-final, so I presume that's VKS 100 Thieves, so before VKS 100 Thieves, I believe that would be. Maybe that's lower final.
Yeah, I guess
maybe that's 100 Thieves Red, right? So maybe just before kind of the final stage of this. Riot's global power rankings, which they have been doing for a while, that people don't really talk about very much. They've not really gotten much traction on it, but they are existing.
To be fair, I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
but again, I respect them
weird.
for trying to. This is a to be a lose-lose kind of thankless thing. But hey, it gives people content and people talk. It generates discussion. So
yeah,
if from that perspective,
they've tried doing it before, but it was always like X personality or whatever's top 20 going into Worlds or whatever.
Oh yeah, into like Worlds. Yeah.
Yeah. So they used to have like the list that they would publish on LoL Esports, whatever top 20 ranked teams, but now it's like a constantly moving thing, which I do prefer it this way. If they can get it to work properly and seem like it's representative, then cool. I think the only problem that people had initially was like these rankings don't make any sense. Like whatever the scoring system is, it doesn't seem to be kind of equivalent to what's going on. But so following into that, on that global power ranking, it had VKS ranked at number 50. Behind the likes of Pain, Red, Leon, C9, TL, and DSG. So that was not working as intended before.
I think there is a case to be made for everyone on that list except Lion and DSG.
Yeah, like because
Red, like especially at that snapshot in time.
Yeah, because Red even like. Because it seems based on like results and strength of opponent and stuff like this, I don't know how much players and rosters and their results play into this, if at all. Because Red had just gone into a rookie roster coming into this split and then placed lower than VKS in that split. How are they ahead of them? I'm pretty sure Red was below VKS last split. So it's because Red were in the middle of the Aegis kind of implosion last split and they blew the whole thing up. So like, I don't know what's going on here, so it's a good catch by Luna to point out how very wrong that is. 100 Leaves was number 21, and FlyQuest was number 6, right? So props to FlyQuest for being number 6 when they've not finished higher than 8th. But they are really good. And there are probably a lot of top 8 teams they could beat if they didn't keep matching against Genji every time. So
yeah, well, I was going to say, just for the sake of just a fun little, exercise, it's slightly shorter. Who are... this is not to say they're right or wrong for putting FlyQuest 6. But let's just take that as a benchmark right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up... Okay. Who do we think in this moment are better teams? Like, where do we actually think FlyQuest land? And again, this is as someone who is not I keep up with the LCK and the LPL, but to say I watch the games and have like... So, big caveat.
Yeah.
Grain of salt, etc. But... Because at first, like, the shock value of like, oh, they're 6. It's like, no. But then you kind of think about their international performances. And okay, they kind of have gone toe to toe with like the LCK and LPL 2 and 3 seeds. So you think, is 6th that insane?
Yeah. It very much feels like they're approaching, if not in like a G2, not 2019 G2, but maybe 2018 G2, or like...
Yeah, like 2018 or 2020 G2.
Yeah, like... I'm trying to remember which G2 was the one that had like Hjarnan and Wadid and had no business being in the semi-final of Worlds, but... So not that one, but... like
I think that was that 17?
Maybe, it was one of the two, right? Because I think 18 was Fnatic World Finals and 19 was G2
that was a big
World
Fnatic
Finals.
Year,
And 19 was G2 MSI win World Finals second. So, but like a Yankos Caps Wonder iteration of G2, that felt like this is a Western team that is able to actually contest even the best Eastern teams, and even if they don't always beat them, they go into every series being like, this is how they win, and it's not that far-fetched. And it's actually like, this is an obvious way they can do it. And FlyQuest feels like that. Like, they feel like, given how close they've gotten against teams like Genji, you'd put them up against KT Rolster, and I would bet FlyQuest. You put them up against IG, I'm betting FlyQuest. You put them up against even like top esports, I'm betting FlyQuest. Like, I think there's a great, relatively easy argument to make for all of these predictions, and that's like, then you're is that not top 6? Is that not number 6 when like top esports is first or second seed in LPL?
I think it's interesting to flesh that out. It was interesting for me anyway, because again, Genji and Hanwha, no. KT, right? And then like top esports, right? I think that's kind of where you slot in.
And
right
like
now.
BLG is kind of a hard one. I'd maybe take BLG, but then they've been like really sus in split 3. So then like there's factors where you could say that there's an argument for FlyQuest again to take them, because like their BLG's been having such a trouble with junglers, and Inspired is the GOAT. So like, there's...
Yeah. And when you say, okay, well, you take them over any team in the Americas, yes. Would you take them over Flying Oyster? I think yes.
Yeah,
There's
but
no
that's
disrespect to
a
Flying
fun
Oyster.
series, you know. Guaranteed, it's going to be a fun day
that's a
out
great
at the
series,
arena,
isn't it?
but it's probably still Flying
100%, 100%. Grab your Diet Cokes,
Yeah.
sit back and enjoy that one.
Yeah.
And then I do think they're better than G2. Although
Yes.
I will say, G2 they really seem to have found the je ne sais quoi they were missing. Again, it's against Europe, it's against Koi and Fnatic. We'll see, but they looked good at the end of the split. I'm not saying they're back.
I'm not convinced they're back yet. But they're
things
almost
are trending
back.
in the right direction.
They're almost back. Yeah, you put G2 against CFO, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. The point is, FlyQuest maybe top 6 team in the world. Number 6 team, not a bad show.
Doesn't seem that insane. So 100 leads was 21. And so VKS before the finals, VKS was 39. So they did get a big jump already. And VKS was versus 100 Thieves was pretty VKS favored. And going by that ranking system, at least, is likely, if not guaranteed, to be the biggest upset of the year, presumably in some sort of at least semi-international setting or a best of 5 or whatever. But, like, what does that tell you?
I think that was,
you know?
Yeah. No, I think, again, to prove that, VKS are definitively a better team than 100 Thieves. I don't think you can say that after one best of 5, but you have to say they're on the same level, right? Because this was a no excuses. Like this was played in the central time zone. It's only a 3-hour time difference. Like, they were there for a long time. They were there for 10 days beforehand, right? Actually, maybe 2. I don't actually know, because I think Cade got there even when Shopify and Red did to give themselves plenty of time to get acclimated and whatnot. So none of this jet lag nonsense. I think I think it is very, very good.
Yeah. Afterwards, as a reference, VKS is now 34, and 100 Thieves got bumped down to 22. So, and that's pretty much anyone relevant from like a major region. Because now after them, you're looking at Secret Wales, who are the 2nd seed from LCP.
2 seed, I think, yeah.
But historically, LCP has kind of devolved into the CFO show, and like GAM kind of, but they didn't even make it this year. And they didn't look as good last time, and like it definitely seems like CFO is head and shoulders above. But then you're into like mid-pack LCK, mid-pack LPL. You're kind of losing, and then you're into like random town LEC, and some more. Loud is 46th, incidentally. So Loud is now ranked higher than VKS was before like 2 series ago. So
based.
The terrifying thing is that I'm hoping that doesn't mean that Loud was ranked higher than VKS as well before that series, because. Come on now, guys. Loud are also ranked higher than Fury, which is kind of funny. But because Fury, like, you're deep into this power ranking, and it has like the points, the win records, and it has like first stand placement, MSI placement, worlds placement, and it is just a sea of nothing. It's like so far down this list. You get past like the 10th place, and almost nobody has a placement at any of these tournaments. And then you get down to 48th, and Fury is like, I was 10th at MSI, woo! And
it's like, oh, guys, remember 3 months ago.
Yeah, these guys weren't even there. These guys weren't even present. And they're like, that drop-off for Fury has hurt them very hard.
You can't really get too mad when they speed ran themselves out of Split 3.
And they were losing against VKS back when VKS were apparently like the worst team of all time and worse than DSG, so, what can you say?
Yeah. So
DSG
what do we
is still ranked higher than Furia. I'm going to crash out.
That's some bull. Look, credit to DSG. They bounced back in a big way. They aren't an auto lose team anymore. They took respectable teams to 5 games, etc.
Yep.
Come on.
Come on now, guys. Yeah. Let's just say this system probably gets better with more data and hope that solves it.
Yes.
Okay. So, yes, great upset for VKS. It didn't look like an upset in the moment, but by this power ranking, it certainly was. Right.
No. I thought it was going to be an upset. I predicted 100 Thieves 3-1. Just for the record. I didn't have faith. I was so happy to be wrong.
Yeah. And that's why he's banned from the broadcast next year. So that's the last time you'll see him. Okay. Nahor says, in regards to CBLOL and LCS coming back, will we get 10 teams back? What happens to the LLA teams that split between North and South? What does this mean for world slots? So we've already discussed about world slots, so we've kind of covered that already. So because they're independent leagues again, originally, we know the LCS, they're not getting 10 teams back, bro. Nobody wants to be in that league.
No, they're with 8. I think the only novelty that could come from this is like, does like that 100 Thieves slot, right? That's the big question.
Yeah, they're trying to. Right? We haven't even know who's
Sentinels,
making it 8 teams, let alone 10.
the Sentinels rumblings are coming back. I think if anything, that would be it. But LTA
Yeah.
North. So wow, old habits, new habits die hard.
Yeah.
LCS is sticking with 8. And I think, for the LA teams, they're doing kind of, one in the north, one in the south, right? Leon and Leviathan, they get their thing. LA is not coming back to an independent league, and like that sucks. But from what I knew, which admittedly was not that much about the LLA as a standalone product, it was on life support before the merger. And this felt like an inevitability, unfortunately. Again, whether it should or shouldn't have happened, and whether this like global revenue pool, it's supposed to be kind of like the welfare system that you pay into. Right? That's the point of it. And so could you have extended that to the LLA? But they were playing in a movie theater. Like it did not seem like it was on, like teams were dropping left and right. We had 7 teams. We had 6 teams like within the year. It was not going to survive without a miracle or like a Saudi, cash injection.
Yeah, you'd need some sort of proof of concept to justify bringing it back fully. I think that there's no way we have. Now, do you run like a bonus mega promotion for 2 more open slots in the CBLOL, and then you like maybe you 50-50 it between LLA teams and Brazilian teams or whatever, or anyone who wants to join? Why not let TSM do it?
Yeah,
but like it's so like that would be cool, right? I mean, it's because it's still like it's like franchised technically, right? Like all of the 7 partners are still kind of franchised, and the guest isn't, I think. So if they
for CBLOL,
for CBLOL, so like, do they have more guest slots? Do they make it 2 guest slots on 8? Do they just make it 3 guest slots? Do they franchise 2 more partners?
I don't know. And I guess to answer explicitly on that, we don't know whether it's going to be 8 or 10 for CBLOL. If you ask me to bet right now, I'd say it stays at 8 for 1 more year. And then maybe next year we get INTZ back or something, right? And then like, INTZ and Kaboom.
That's a
right? But like Kaboom, they're down in tier 2, right? They have their, their road back. Flamengo, they won yesterday in the
they
Pro Rel tournament.
Smashed it yesterday, yeah. They were cooking.
So they destroyed whoever they're up against, which I think, to be fair, was the expected outcome. Even talking to RMC, right? He was like, look, do I think Flamengo has the sauce? Not necessarily. Are they better than a lot of these teams? And should they smash their first round opponent?
They're better than Sakar, and it was like Envy, Trigo, Damage, and Makes, and I think
it's a lot of guys that in a 10-team CBLOL are CBLOL players.
Would probably be somewhere 6 to 10 in a 10-team CBLOL.
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't be very good, but they'd be there.
So that's I'm sure Fluxy needs some players, man. So I think that maybe you could do like some sort of cool like event or promotion event to do that, but realistically they probably just franchise more teams. Now this is relevant, I think, to a further question that I'm going to try and jump forward to which one it's at. Yeah, so Dark Knight says, now that CBLOL is back, we just need the likes of BRTT and Tinones coming out of retirement, and for the teams Kaboom, Renska, and Miners. Now we're talking. And also someone get INTZ out of bankruptcy. So this is kind of the point here, is that like, we could have room for our teams. We get all our favorite teams back. Do you really want that? Do you want Renska, Miners, Kaboom? Obviously Renska and Miners are the joke answers here, but Kaboom and INTZ are generally being bandied around. Yep. You cannot let the same INTZ back in the league. You need to get someone to buy the brand and then pick it right back up, right? IDL swap teams and do INTZ, DL or whatever, and then you have like the structure and the fan base and slightly more professional credibility, I would wager, than INTZ at the end of that truly abhorrent like spiral that they ended up going down.
It almost feels like this is not a perfect comparison. So Brazilians, I know what I'm saying here. I know it's not perfect, but in Brazilian soccer, right? They're all kind of like all the clubs are, they're not private entities until some of them do become private entities, or they become SAFs, Sociedade Anônima do Futebol. So that's like basically the cure-all that like the more maybe uneducated soccer fan thinks like, well, that's just the cure-all to like all, if your club is in dire financial straits, vira SAF. Right? Tell it to become a private company, and then you can get more investors, and you can blah, 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 right? In some cases that works, but I think it's a cure-all. No, but I almost think like INTZ needs to virar SAF. They need to like become a more serious entity before they get let back in. You are 100% correct. That dumpster fire is like the INTZ brand coming back would be a huge bonus. The Kaboom brand coming back would be a bonus because I've talked to already all of their 7 to 10 fans.
I don't think it has enough juice, man. Yeah.
They don't. They don't. But they're also like they also still exist, and they're in tier 2, and they have their thing, and they can promote up whatever. Exactly right. Like, but the IGC brand coming back would be good, but you cannot let them back in as they were, because it was an absolute mess.
You need to do the thing where like someone comes unlocked, buys it for $1 or whatever, and then revives it. Like, it's already bankrupt, right? So it's not worth anything. Like, it's just buy it, go and buy it for $1, and then revive it with whatever you want. But yeah, just more better than they had last time. So
that actually did happen in English soccer, did it not?
I'm sure it did.
You'd have like these distressed assets that like were bought like for $1 to prevent them from going into like administration or like, you know,
and then it gets like
tumbling down the league,
stripped of value and like asset strips and stuff. So like there's precedent for this kind of thing happening. Obviously it's a bit late for INTZ having but maybe there's a way back, and that would be cool. INTZ I would be happy to see back. I do remember some of their fire jersey designs in those latter years, but Kaboom I couldn't really care less. Like Kaboom IDL as a concept, because of the footprint that it gives IDL, which is a large part of the footprint of the entire league. Obviously that's important and valuable, but the Kaboom side I don't care too much about, I'm afraid. And 10 teams would be neat. 10 teams would be neat again. I like having more teams.
And no, we do not need BRTT back. We already tried that.
Nope,
it was horrible. Let him do his own thing.
Let him go.
Tino's coming back again. I think would be fun, but like
that's the thing. It might not be fun. Is the thing. It might end up not being fun. Like BRTT wasn't fun the second time.
That was not fun.
So I think maybe it might not be fun. And like we're so like young talent pilled right now. We have been for years, but we even more so now with like rookies coming second, rookies coming first. Like we're absolutely, we have such a wonderful balance of vets, rookies, and the occasional well-placed import that I think like that composition is like is really good right now. You know, we've got your Currys and your Wisers on Pain, and
it is hit and miss.
Oh yes, it is. But
like you can draw from the LLA talent pool, right? You have your Kazes as well, right?
So I think the Kazes kicking around.
Exactly. Right.
So so that's I would like to go back to 10 teams. Obviously, basically, I don't know if I'd actually really want to see any of the old teams back. I'd love to see something new, but obviously new teams in esports is kind of rare. But I think the CBLOL coming back will energize the Brazilian scene in a big way, just because they're so happy to have their thing back. And potentially that even still extends to capital. Let's see. We'll see if they can. Right, let's get back to that third question here, which is well, this is actually nothing we have to cover. Luna Days is just anyone else confused as to why the splits are not 2 and 2, given that the top 4 was 2 and 2. Yes is the answer, and we've gone over the context at the start of the show. So the answer is yes, and hopefully they will listen to the fans. And to be honest, a lot of the pundits, a lot of the commentariat, like, are pretty much in agreement. They're like, yeah, we should probably just fight over that 4 spot. We'll see if they can do it. We'll see if they can work out how to do it. And it would be lovely if they worked that out before the start of next year. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how many
because
marks the essay.
Do you actually think like there is a reason? Like, genuinely speaking, and it's not like I'm genuinely posing this. Do you think there is actually a reason why they couldn't change this between now and the start of Worlds? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, we didn't find out, like, in the Dark Ages or the Golden Years, depending on how you want to look at it, we didn't find out how many World slots each region got until like the middle of the year. Am I misremembering that?
I don't think they used to do the thing they do now, where they, like, because they've tried to rework the global format like multiple times, it feels like, over the last few years, when they're like, now we're doing 3 splits and this is how the slots are going to be allocated. I think they started doing that, which was different to the way they used to do it before, when they were less clear about it, or there was more kind of up for grabs. And I think they started being more communicative at the start of a year about, this is how many people are going to this event, that event, that event. This is like all the allocations. I do think it used to be a little more up in the air. And I don't think there's any actual objective reason why you can't do it. Like, given the information of an external figure like myself, where you're not privy to any internal inter-regional politics or how they value or are choosing to try and action certain things, like to boost or whatever certain regions, where some of a lot of like the alleged stuff is that, well, they're doing this to kind of artificially boost LCS, which, like, you see how they got there. Obviously, it is a bit conspiracy pilled, but like you do see like how they got there in terms of like the argument they put behind it. When it doesn't seem like, at least if they then choose not to do anything with that fourth slot and not keep it up for grabs, you have to start wondering about why that is. Because like in terms of adding one extra best of 5 to decide that last spot, it's really not that hard.
And it's like no, because we've already done it in the past. We did the thing where Golden Guardians got their teeth kicked in by BDS a couple years ago, right? We're doing
and they're doing it with LPL and LCK this year.
Exactly. Right. And there's like the Asia Invitational, right? Again, that's not the same thing. But like clearly there is wiggle room in the calendar. And that Asia Invitational was announced, if I'm not mistaken, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I only found out about it like a week ago, that's for sure. Like so it does seem like it's just decided to happen. And that's just like, well, let's just have something for other teams to do. Like, you can just do stuff. And they've explicitly said that they wanted to reshape the ecosystem to the point where third parties and other things could happen more and not have it just be split 1, MSI, split 2, Worlds, nothing else. You can't play the game outside of these events. Like, they're actively trying to go against that.
And that is one thing that Valorant has actually done very well. And I find it surprising that the Valorant ecosystem kind of had that before League of Legends did. But I also understand that the way that Valorant was launched was much more kind of cohesive. They had kind of data to pull from, and like they launched it as more kind of ready-made product, if you will, right? In terms of League of Legends, in terms of the esports ecosystem. But yeah, like when I go to do like media day stuff with like for VCT, right? And I talk like all the players like in there, you know, when you ask them the boilerplate questions of like, how do you think this team's going to look? How does this team look? They all reference like the little like the streamer invitational tournaments that they played before in between splits. And they said, oh yeah, here they look really good, and this player played really well. So like again, there's room for that, and that generates so much excitement. So like I Valorant does that very well. It holds actual weight, right? But it's what it should be, right? Does this count for anything but bragging rights? No. Does this generate discourse? Does this change how you go up against certain teams? Do you have a little bit of something to smack talk going into, right, these competitions? Yes. Provides more, revenue opportunities as well, right? Which was kind of the whole point, right? At the end of the day, it's all about money.
Best example is, I think, League of Their Own, right? Which they're doing again, like Red Bull League of Their Own, which is just like a bunch of the most popular teams are just having a tournament for fun and probably a bit of money, but an irrelevant amount of money on the grand scheme of things. Like they're just
exactly. Like this isn't like the European Super League. This is just like this is, you get invited, you have some fun, right? You draw crowds, you get more money, right? You get exposure for everybody. It's a win-win.
Yeah, so they've explicitly said they want to leave room for that, and so slotting in a way to decide that last slot will be eminently doable. It's if they want to do it, if that's actually the goal that they want to have, and how much weight they put behind the backlash that has just happened. And otherwise, besides that, CBLOL will have to wait until Worlds to hopefully get a Swiss match against like the third seed from NA, who, going by current metrics, VKS would completely gigablast the Shopifys of the world. And then we'd be like, so what's that slot for, guys? Like, what's that one doing? So you just have to keep proving them wrong. You have to keep proving to them why they should give you the chance. And they almost did last year, and now they've kind of taken it away, but they were going to do it. Like, they were going to give us the chance for a second slot. They did.
Yeah, and it has gotten harder to prove them wrong, but the opportunities are there. You can only play what's in front of you type beat. But like, it was, to do the us against them thing, right? It's never been easy for Brazil, right? With the opportunities we were given in the last few years, we've proven that things have gotten better. Payne made it into Swiss. He solo killed Guma and Keria. Furia had an unbelievable MSI, even though the results might not show it. The streets remember. The gap is closing, etc. This LTA tournament, right? And again, I maybe this is me being naive, but I have to believe that Riot is taking all that into account to sort of, quote unquote, rectify or at least make it better for the future. Yeah, and that's kind of all I can hope for, because that's
that's all we can hope for. That seems like a good point to end on, I think. I
think so too.
Yep, thank you very much. We're almost bang on an hour as well. Very rare for a podcast that I'm on to actually end up on an hour. Let's keep this
going. RMC and I were talking on the podcast we did, just us two, that like we need you here because you like keep you herd the cats well, and you keep the discussion moving along. So an hour, well done for us. That's good.
That's good. But yeah, there's plenty of like outside of the game stuff to talk about here. So not as much stat quoting, but a bit more general kind of scene discussion, which needs to be had. Right, there's so much going on right now, so hopefully we've been able to have it without throwing like rocks at NA people after I spent
Yeah,
so
throwing
much time
bricks
last
through
split
windows.
saying that we're not being combative RY404, and then he goes on Twitter and enrages the entire scene. But he did apologize for it in a very nice way. So okay, right.
Yeah. I enraged one of the scenes.
You did. You did enrage one of the scenes. Yeah, the other one kind of militarized behind you accidentally.
Yeah.
But,
The pitchforks got out and it turned into something that I didn't mean
unintentionally.
to be,
Yeah, to be clear. Okay, right. Thank you everybody for listening. So you can as of today, which is the 1st of October, you can still go and follow us on Twitter and Twitch and Blue Sky at LTA South. However,
that's the off-season project is paying the fees to get the names changed.
At some point between now and
that's
next
what our very limited budget is going towards.
Yeah, this is why we can't give you guys prizes for fantasy because we need to pay for social name changes.
To rebrand again.
So at some point of the off season, we'll change it. Whether we go back to CBLOL English, who knows, right? But at the very least, at the current time, when you're listening to this, most likely it will still be LTA South on Twitter and Blue Sky, and LTA South on Twitch. And as always, you can join our community Discord, where you can get mad at Riot for not giving us enough slots, or you can have a super reasoned discussion about it. It's kind of whatever floats your boat. So thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next week. We are planning on doing another episode for a full Worlds preview episode. So despite the fact there are no games, we will still be podding in a week, roughly a week's time.
With a special guest.
Yes, we are almost, as far as I'm aware, pretty much guaranteed to have a special guest next week. So watch out for that, and it should make it a banger episode. So peace, have a nice evening, afternoon, day, morning, and we will see you next week.
Bye.